Markets Now is brought to you by Durastack Trait Technology, the latest innovation from Syngenta. Available for the 2027 season, Durastack technology features 3 powerful modes of action to outsmart, outmaneuver, and outmatch corn rootworms every move.
And welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rourke with Randy Martinson of Martinson Ag. And here on a Thursday morning, we are seeing the grains to the plus side. Livestock futures are setting back. And Randy, well, let's talk about soybeans' first wild ride yesterday with President Trump's tweet about China buying more soybeans, and that really sent the market up. And we're trading that again this morning, aren't we?
We are, and you look at it, I mean, this is, basically 8 million metric ton or roughly 294 million bushels of added demand that we were not expecting. I mean, USDA just lowered exports. They weren't looking for this to come into play. And if it does, this adds to the demand picture, which will severely weaken or reduce our ending stocks estimate for soybeans. And that is helping to push soybeans to try to look at rationing demand at this point.
So we were at 350 million bushels on ending stocks after the last report. What would this take us down to if you don't put everything, the whole 300 million bushels, right on the balance sheets, do you?
No, I mean, I think you'd probably would come in and it's likely it'll be somewhere around 100 to 125 million bushel ending stocks estimate. You don't expect to see it all being done in this marketing year. Some will probably drift over into the next, but for the most part, though, it will bring it down so that stocks get to be basically pipeline supplies.
If it's true, because China has not confirmed it yet. And do you think it really will be old crop purchases, especially with Brazil's cheaper crop coming online here?
It's going to be tough for it to be, I think, all, old crop. I mean, I do think some of it will be, but you're right. I mean, Brazil's got a good crop, a very large crop coming in, and it's likely that's going to grab the attention of China, at least through June, July timeframe. Maybe by then we could start to see a little bit of demand come to the U.S. So I would expect that if it's going to be coming from, purchases from the U.S., it's going to come later in the summer.
So it would be new crop purchases.
I think it would be more new crop. I don't know if we'll be able to do it on the old crop side, but it's all going to depend on what China needs and also the room. If they can start making some room in their reserves, they might buy a little bit sooner.
Yeah, because let's talk about that, because there is speculation if they have bought the 12 million metric tons that they don't have any more room in their reserves for the 8 million metric tons. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And they have been trying to get some pulled out of the reserves, but there's not been enough to even pulling in the 12 million metric ton that they have purchased. So yeah, there is a little bit of a storage problem in China that hasn't been resolved yet, and this will just compound it.
And these would be all government politically motivated purchases. These would not be private entities, right?
It seems like this is more political motivated. It does seem like this is more of a let's keep the U.S. happy type purchases.
Okay, so if that is in mind, talk a little bit about if it's all commercial considerations at this point, why we don't have private sources buying. One, Brazil's crop is cheaper, and two, the tariff's still on, isn't it?
The tariff is still on, but if it is the government that's buying and it's going into reserves, that 10% tariff doesn't go into play. So then it makes us a little bit more competitive. And that, I think, is the only way, or would be the biggest way for China to come in and look at buying these.
All right. So that's why we think it's all government purchases like it has been so far, COFCO, Sino-Grain.
Exactly. And that's where the cheaper beans would come in and make us a little more competitive.
So we weren't expecting this additional business. The market wasn't. So how high do you think soybean prices have to go now to price this in if it's true?
Well, we're flirting with that $11 area, and I think we could possibly see 11.35 to 11.50 somewhere in that area. And at that point, then we're going to need confirmation, or at least see some sign that China is also behind this and willing to backing the purchases. So I do think that we've got a chance to see a little bit more of a pop in this market, but we need confirmation as well.
Yeah, and you get farmers selling up at these upper levels. I mean, that was part of the reason we were up 50 cents at one point yesterday and ended up only 26 higher, right?
Oh, most definitely. Farmer selling is going to kick in. I mean, there was a lot of them that they're, if we could get back up close to $11, you take the average basis off, you're still looking to, 10 to $10.50 beans. There's going to be a lot of, I think, banker pressure even to sell just because it makes the balance sheets look that much better.
Yeah, for sure. Is there any, I guess, Argentina weather premium being put into either the corn or soybean market? I know it's really hard to tell right now, isn't it?
It is, but I don't think so. I mean, I think the expectation is just like we've seen in the past years. Argentina is suffering; their crop isn't doing very good. The conditions continue to drop, but Brazil's is doing fairly well. They're not seeing any trouble. They're continuing to see their production estimates increase. So the idea is that Brazil is going to more than make up for what Argentina is going to lose.
Corn was disappointing yesterday. You've got beans up 26 cents. Corn only ends a penny higher. Corn is following a little bit better this morning, but it's kind of been disappointing. Why isn't it getting a bigger push or pull from beans?
I think a lot of it is one, they want to confirm that these, bean purchases are going to take place. Two, corn stocks are fairly comfortable. And at this point, we aren't really worried, or the end user isn't really worried about where they're going to get their next bushel. But if this does come into play and China does buy this and our stocks for soybeans drop, we're going to see acres switch over to soybeans for 2026, which is going to change the story for corn going forward, which would mean that corn would have to try to bid or try to hold on to some acreage.
But you're going to have to lose a lot of corn acres here to make a big difference in the balance sheet, right?
You would. I mean, right now the estimate is 95. That I think is looking at us dropping, 3 to 4 million. It would have to be closer to 5 million to make a big change. But then again, if we can get that E15 going and at least see that pick up in, a majority of the states, that would help chew through some bushels as well.
Yeah. All right. The other thing we should talk about is, like you said, corn might have to follow soybeans to bid for acres. Is there something bubbling under the surface here as well with China maybe needing to buy corn? Because we're hearing kind of whispers that they've had lots of problems with their crop.
And they did buy quite a bit of corn from, I believe it was Argentina here a month or so ago. So, and their estimate was that their corn production was going to be higher. So, yeah, there is some concern right now that their corn isn't quite, matching what they need, and they're going to have to bring some in. And there is some hints, of course, of corn demand improving and rumors that China was buying. So, yeah, I think there is some, by the time we get into, I think, later spring, we'll see a little bit more of corn demand going towards China.
All right, so China is the one thing that could probably or possibly finally get us out of this trading range in corn, but it's a long shot, huh?
It's a long shot, but yeah, China's usually the answer to the problems just because of their huge demand.
Speaking of that, China bought some wheat and the weekly export sales switched over from unknown. So they're kind of looking at that. Do you think we'll get any more purchases out of them on the wheat side?
Boy, you'd hope so, because wheat really does need to see something to help prop it up. I mean, it's been kind of disappointing. Right now we've been pulling weather premium out, even though we're seeing conditions drop in the winter wheat region of U.S., not enough to make a big difference at this point. And so, yeah, wheat does need something. And again, a little extra demand out of China would certainly help.
But the dollar has gone back a little bit higher. So I don't know if that's part of the story, or is it just back to this whole global supply situation?
I think it's more of the global supply situation. I mean, when you look at the major exporting countries, of the 6 of them, all of them had record crops last year or close to it. I think only Russia was the only one, and Ukraine were the only ones that didn't. So that, I think, just that's kind of the wet blanket on the wheat market, is just huge supplies.
So you mentioned maybe corn needing to buy some acres because we might plant more soybeans. Do you think soybeans could steal some wheat acres?
Yeah, it's a possibility. Maybe up here in the northern plains, I do think there is going to be some little extra abandonment down in the winter wheat region. I would expect that there's going to be a little bit more cattle grazing out the winter wheat down there, and those acres would probably or could go to soybeans once they get grazed out. So that's certainly an alternative.
Gotcha. Weekly exports this morning, we should talk about that. We've kind of backed off a little bit on everything, haven't we?
They were disappointing. I think corn was at a marketing year low, or soybeans. So it was a disappointing export sales estimate.
Yeah, I should ask you, as far as the exports, if China comes in and buys this, that gets rid of that 20% gap that we're running for total export sales on soybeans versus last year that we're under?
Yeah, it would definitely help tighten that up. And we have been, and you look at the numbers, we started off with a lot bigger deficit for soybean sales compared to last year. And we've tightened that up already as we've gone through the marketing year. So it has improved. It's still quite a bit less than last year, but if China comes in and buys this, I think we'll then virtually get to be close to last year's pace.
Gotcha. Cattle market's been on a rage, new highs for the move, even on the open this morning, and then we quickly turned lower on. Let's talk about this plant in Greeley, Colorado. What's the news there?
Well, they did, they've been working without a contract, workers' comp, so they're voted to strike last night. So right now, 99% of the workers said they would support going on strike. That means now that they're going to go to JBS and say, hey, let's get some sort of a contract done so that we can continue to working, or we will do a walkout. And I think that's putting some pressure in on the market right now. I mean, as you mentioned, the fundamental reasons for this market to stay strong are still there. I mean, tight supply, strong demand, strong cash. It's going to take something like this, though, that could upset it, like we saw, a few years ago.
Yeah, we keep talking about black swans. I just got back from CattleCon, and lots of people worried about black swans. I thought it was going to be the border reopening to Mexico or NWS or something like that, but a plant closure, at least this is going to be, if they can get back to work, it would only be a temporary situation though, right?
Correct. And they're hoping that they don't see any disruption. And that's why they're going to JBS saying, hey, this is on the table now. So let's get a contract together and move forward so that we can keep the plant rolling. So, but yeah, there's going to be some sort of a black swan that's going to come in and upset the cattle. I do think we could touch the old contract highs, but at that point, I think the inflationary type pricing and high price for the consumer is going to come back to haunt the cattle again.
Yeah, but if we get higher cash this week, I'm not going to rule out that we're going to be back higher again. This market's continuing to do that, isn't it?
It's very resilient, and it does seem like it wants to go back to those old highs.
Yeah, for sure. All right, thanks so much, Randy Martinson with Martinson Ag. That is Markets Now.
With corn rootworm costing farmers up to $1 billion a year, you need the right strategy. Introducing Durastack Trait Technology, featuring 3 powerful modes of action to strike corn rootworm at full force. Outsmart, outmaneuver, and outmatch their every move with the industry's first triple BT protein stack built for corn rootworm control. Take back your yield potential. Make your move at Durastack.com. Available for the 2027 season.